Tonight we're diving into a story about Blackwood Lake, a place that has an unsettling history. For years, people have whispered about the strange occurrences around this lake, especially when night falls. Some places carry an unshakable darkness, and Blackwood Lake is one of them. If you're into creepy, mysterious tales, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, let's dive in. Kenny and his friends had planned the camping trip for weeks, excited to spend a weekend by the peaceful waters of Blackwood Lake. The lake was famous for its beauty, a remote spot far from city lights, where stars stretched endlessly across the sky. But it was also known for something else, a chilling quiet that settled in once the sun dipped below the tree line. Locals warned against staying overnight, telling tales of strange sightings and eerie sounds that echoed across the water. But Kenny and his friends laughed off the rumors, dismissing them as small-town myths meant to scare visitors. They packed their gear, prepared to leave behind any worries, and set out for what they thought would be a relaxing weekend. The first day was perfect. They spent the afternoon fishing and swimming, their laughter mingling with the sounds of nature. But as the sun sank below the treetops, casting long shadows across the lake, the mood shifted. A heavy mist began to roll in, spilling over the water and creeping onto the shore like a silent wave. The air grew cold, the warmth of the day vanishing in an instant. The familiar sounds of the forest, chirping crickets, rustling leaves, faded into an eerie silence. Kenny shivered, feeling a strange sense of unease settle over him. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him from just beyond the mist. Trying to brush off the feeling, he wandered to the water's edge, staring out into the lake. As he looked closer, he thought he saw a pair of faint, glowing green eyes just beneath the water's surface, staring back at him. "Kenny, you all right?" One of his friends called from the campfire, pulling him out of his trance. He blinked, and the eyes were gone. Shaken, he walked back to the fire, deciding not to mention what he'd seen. But he couldn't ignore the feeling of dread that weighed on him, growing stronger as the night wore on. They tried to keep the fire going, but no matter how much wood they fed it, the flames seemed small and weak, barely cutting through the darkness. The mist thickened, swallowing the light and casting strange shadows across the campsite. Eventually, his friends decided to turn in, leaving Kenny alone by the fire. As he sat there, listening to the heavy silence, he heard a low, rhythmic splash coming from the lake. It was slow, deliberate, like something moving through the water. The sound sent a chill down his spine, and he found himself drawn back to the shore, unable to shake the feeling that something was lurking just out of sight. As he approached the water's edge, his flashlight caught something emerging from the mist. A figure was rising from the lake, slow and deliberate, as if it had been waiting just beneath the surface. Kenny's blood froze as he took in the creature's form. It was tall and humanoid, but covered in slick, scaly skin that glistened in the dim light. Its face was a horrifying blend of human and reptile, with a twisted, elongated mouth lined with needle-like teeth and wide, unblinking eyes that glowed a sickly green. The creature's gaze locked onto him, unflinching, and it began to move toward him, each step slow and calculated. Kenny's legs felt like they were made of lead, his body paralyzed by terror as the creature drew closer. It tilted its head, studying him with an unsettling intelligence, its mouth curving into a grin that revealed rows of sharp teeth. Long, webbed fingers with sharp claws reached out, and Kenny felt his heart pounding in his chest, the primal urge to run battling against his frozen limbs. In a desperate surge of energy, Kenny stumbled backward, managing to break free from the creature's gaze. He turned and ran back toward the campsite, his breath coming in panicked gasps. He could hear something slithering behind him, the wet, slapping sound of its movements drawing closer with each step. "Kenny, what's wrong?" his friend shouted as he burst into the clearing. But the words died in his throat as they all saw the shadow moving through the mist toward them. The creature emerged at the edge of the campsite, standing still and silent as it observed them. Its mouth curved into that same twisted grin, and its unblinking green eyes scanned the group, almost as if it were savoring their fear. They all stood there, frozen, watching in horrified silence as the creature's webbed hand slowly lifted, claws glinting in the faint light. Then, with an eerie grace, it sank back into the mist, disappearing into the darkness. Shaken, Kenny and his friends huddled together by the fire, too afraid to move or make a sound. The mist thickened around them, enclosing the campsite in an impenetrable wall of gray. Every rustle of leaves, every soft splash from the lake set their nerves on edge, their imaginations running wild with images of the creature lurking just beyond the light. They tried to wait out the night, but the hours stretched on, each one more nerve-wracking than the last. And then, in the early hours, they heard it again, a slow, deliberate splash coming from the lake, followed by a faint scraping sound along the shoreline. It grew louder, closer, and Kenny's heart pounded as he realized the creature was coming back. Desperate, they grabbed their gear and fled, stumbling through the dense forest, their flashlights barely piercing the thick mist. Behind them, they could hear the wet, slithering sounds of something moving through the underbrush, following them as they scrambled to escape. They didn't stop running until they reached their car, leaving everything they couldn't carry behind. As they sped away, Kenny looked back, catching one last glimpse of Blackwood Lake shrouded in mist, the faint outline of something tall and scaly watching them from the shoreline. Even as the lake faded from view, the memory of those green eyes and that twisted grin lingered in Kenny's mind. He knew he would never return to Blackwood Lake, and he would never forget the creature that watched him from beneath the water. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more chilling tales. Remember, some places are meant to stay hidden, and Blackwood Lake is one of them.